All right, Daniel, so I just sent you the link to the V1 analysis looking at the movements that you sent me. We know that we're going to continue working on posture to make it a little bit easier for us to have some depth and some rotation. It's certainly improved as we've seen in the V1 analysis. Instead of you hitting chip shots from very vertical where we see the club go outward, doesn't have any room to have any rotation. We've certainly gotten a little bit better. We're starting to see a little bit better takeaway and a little bit better backstroke. So now we actually get to start talking about downstroke. It's certainly going to get easier and easier as I get a little farther away from it. We get a little closer to Stricker in terms of our posture, where we're able to rotate, have a little bit more depth of that left arm, so that we know we need to flatten this hand path out and stretch it a little straighter to target instead of stow downward and inward. So if I don't have the depth of this left arm in backstroke, it's really only got one choice: to work hard downward and inward. So as I described in that V1, is that when that left arm has to work hard downward and inward, the hand path is downward and inward, that face in the club gets stuck so far behind the club, the only option is to really hold that face off to have any chance of having any loft for any of my shots. The problem with that is now I've created a very leftward path with a very open face, so I'm getting very much a glancing blow left and right. If I do square that facing point, I'm going to hit a fastball over to the left. If I leave it a little too open, I hit that weak shot over to the right. That's not because we don't have face control. That's because the hand path going so hard down and left early requires you to hold that face open, so you can never actually have any feel and touch and deliver somewhat of a square face and path to get what I like to call consistent pressure on the golf ball. So I asked for a right hand only pitch shot video from you. And we actually, it looks like we probably hit a decent one. It was the first time we actually saw the club kind of exit about where it should. That first left-hand only video you sent me is exactly what I expected. Skulls and shanks come when we really pull that shaft with left hand only, which is basically exactly what you get when that hand path gets so steep and left. We can never really release that club and loft with any softness. So that hand path, huge deal for you, huge deal. So I've got a pretty straightforward drill here. Indoors, I got this little thing that holds my noodles the same way you put a stick in the ground or a shaft in the ground outside. It's going to be pretty close to shaft plane line, slightly inside as you see it set up here, right? So if I'm moving the club in a very planar motion, right, I wouldn't miss that noodle on the high side. Right now in your videos, there's a chance you would actually go under that. You'd be going so far to the left. So I want a lot of drills right hand only, the same way as if we were going to toss a golf ball, right hand only, like we're in setup here. I'm going to toss this golf ball to the target. It would never look like this, which is essentially what our hand path is doing now. It's outward, cuts down and in. I'm never going to get that golf ball on the line throwing it. I'm never going to really be able to create any height or softness. Now, if I'm in setup and I toss it a little something like that, now the hand path is smoothed out a little bit more towards the target instead of going so hard and left. I've got a chance at actually tossing that golf ball the direction that I want without having a very narrow window of that face and path matching. It's there for a long period of time. Along with that, when I'm not throwing the golf ball downward and inward, where I know that I've got to keep the shaft really behind the hands way too long, right? Now I'm able to actually release the shaft and have some bounce hit the ground and some loft hit the golf ball, because I've actually had to rotate to manage the hand path going straight forward instead of the body not really rotating and just slicing across it this way. So the first thing you're going to do is, with this shaft in the ground, you need to hit a ton of right hand only pitch shots, missing this noodle. So you're certainly going to see the shaft and the club pointed much more the direction we're trying to go, much more towards your target. You're not going to see this hard left move over here, right? As you can see the difference in those two, that's very, very unnatural to see that club having to work so hard on left to keep the face open. Then with a really good field right hand only, after you've learned to sort of what I call you're tossing the club and tossing the ball towards the hole with your trail arm, it's very simple. The left hand becomes a part of this, and we do the exact same thing. And we're able to see that this club actually, I can see the club for a long period of time. The face angle has stayed square. It sort of matches my spine angle. That'd be what we'd be looking for in terms of squareness. instead of seeing that left hand come in here and us go slicing across this way, we see the club exit low, the face wide open, and the grip going left. Very, very, very difficult, as you've experienced, to make consistent contact when that hand path is working radial so far around me. So in golf swing, it might go a little bit more that way. We've got some speed pieces and we've got some rotational pieces with the body that are going to help it go that way. I certainly would say even in full golf swing, it's probably too hard left if that's the same thing that we're doing when we're hitting golf balls. The thing in shorter shots is we don't need all those rotational pieces in separation for speed because we're not hitting at a long distance. So we shouldn't have the pelvis really opening a ton and pulling the hand path in to kick the club head back out at speed. We actually, the advantage is that we can lengthen the hand path, stretch it out, like I like to say, and that actually stretches out the 3D movement of the club head also. So we keep the path of the club moving way closer to straight for a very long period of time. So if we recap into where we were, if I'm very vertical here, my first move is arms go out, club goes open. The only thing that I have available to me is downward and inward, and that's where we started. So purely because of setup, it was impossible for you to have enough depth to smooth out this hand path. It was going to, from the beginning of downstroke, work downward and inward. So we've gotten a little bit better. We actually see the backstroke be closer to neutral. As that gets even better and we can have some depth with the hands and the club, way easier to see that tossing of the club head or tossing the ball, much more as in a throwing fashion. So a ton of right hand onlys, something in the way that's going to keep us from ripping the hands in and keeping the face open. I actually want to see what you might feel like is a couple of little bitty draws right there. And you can see, I've got a 58-degree wedge. You can see how high and soft that golf ball's coming out. And you can see the release of the club is actually square. That's because I'm not dragging the club through with the open face. I'm actually able to release that shaft and deliver some bounce to the ground and loft to the golf ball. So the big thing we got to do is manage your hand path and downstroke. The first pieces of that, as we started on earlier, is having the space to have the hand path deep enough so that it can stretch out towards the target, not being forced immediately downward and inward. So a ton of right hand onlys, a ton of two hand onlys with this guy in the way, starting to feel those hands are moving much more towards the target in a tossing or pitching fashion. I'm pitching a golf ball than ever seeing them work hard downward and inward. So we get that hand path under control, and I want to see some videos. I want to see a checkup on that. That hand path gets under control and that face gets under control. There's no way your pitching and chipping doesn't